Hello. I wanted to make this video because I recently watched episode 8, and for the most part I liked it more than episode 7, which was to me just too much of a rehash of episode 4. This movie had parallels to old movies like Luke's Island's basically Dagobah, but it's an island, not a swamp. So for me that it's all you gotta do. It's significantly different enough to be its own movie. So for that I like it already more so than episode 7. I did have some issues with it. I mean, visually, yeah, it's awesome, but I put out the Legos here to illustrate my issue. These guys over here represent the First Order. This represents the Resistance fleet. It's not, accurate with numbers and all that. It's just a rough idea. A big overall part of the movie or ongoing issue is this group is being tracked by the First Order. These guys have figured out how to follow them into hyperspace. So these guys figure out they can't do anything because they'll run out of fuel faster, but they just keep going. And every 15 or 30 minutes, one of them runs out of fuel, drifts behind, gets taken out. And 15 or 20 minutes or something later, another one gets taken out. It's really kind of slow and agonizing. Maybe that's the point. It also seems a little like, I don't know, like maybe they should have made a last stand or something, even though that would have been futile. Anyway, what bothers me is this big organization here, which I assume this is not the entire fleet. Like, they've almost conquered the entire galaxy, as we learn in the crawl. I don't understand, like, either they could have some other ships from other sectors. They could first of all figure out roughly where this convoy is going. Like, based on, they could plot a prediction course. And even if these guys are moving around to try to make it hard to predict, you can come up with, get various ships to intercept where they're expected to go. Or even have a couple of these ships break off and do the same. They should also have smaller ships like TIE fighters and things that are faster that can catch up to these guys. So I don't understand this whole, we're just out of reach with our range and we can't quite get to them, but we can follow them. Maybe they explained it better and I was just too tired to catch it. And this is also an issue for future movies. So now the First Order has the ability to track through hyperspace. That's to me a rule now. So good luck, guys. Unless they had somebody plant something on there anyway. That's another issue for another day. I just didn't understand this scenario, why this couldn't happen. Then, connected to it, there were two more issues. One, this represents Finn. Finn and Rose come up with this plan where they're going to leave the ship, jump into hyperspace, go to a planet, track down a gambler that's also a hacker. They get into hijinks along all that way. They do find the guy. Then they get to the First Order ship as planned. I mean, there's a whole lot of ifs in that scenario that, of course, paid off. But it bothers me that we're in a pursuit this long where somebody's able to go to a whole nother planet. Like, I'm pretty sure hyperspace is not instantaneous. Like, when you're in your craft that jumps, you're still in that ship for a good while. This is where people sleep or, eat and stuff before you get to where you go. And even then, you're landing on this planet, meeting the contacts and stuff, and getting into all those hijinks, then getting to that ship. I don't know. I just don't buy that chase lasts that long. The other thing going on is during all that, Poe is on this ship and he causes a mutiny because he doesn't trust this admiral that he's never heard of, or he's heard of but never met or seen. Even though the Resistance feels like it's only 70 people deep, I guess it's big enough that he's never met this person, and he doubts their command decisions, which he maybe felt she didn't need to share, but if she'd shared, he wouldn't have done the mutiny. But Leia wakes up out of her coma in time to stop him, so the mutiny didn't matter. It was just time. It was wasting time in the movie so that Finn and all the other people in the movie could do their scenes. Leia and the Admiral laugh Poe off as like, that's our Poe because he led a mutiny. But a mutiny is a big deal in any military. Shouldn't be laughed off. Like, of course, they'll never ever listen to anybody because he can do what he wants and they'll just say, that's Poe. He can do that. Anyway, That was my number one biggest issue with the movie. If we just could have gotten a better scenario with this, it would have helped me a lot more. The other thing this whole scenario reminded me of was like a Battlestar Galactica reimagined. I believe it's their first episode of the first season after the mini movie. The good guys, the Battlestar and its fleet, get in a situation where the Cylons are chasing them, and the Cylons are able to follow them because they've got a mole somewhere in the fleet, and the Battlestar and its fleet can jump every 30 minutes into hyperspace, or whatever they call it, the FTL drives jump. These guys can then follow them. But the big problem isn't the fuel, though that comes up, I believe, in the next episode. It's the lack of ability to sleep. This situation was much more interesting because they could keep making the jumps. They just, they were being tortured by being sleep deprived. I felt like that's what the Star Wars movie was going for, except it was much more of a slow grind, and it seemed to me like this group here should have been able to create a sort of trap. Could even have the famous "It's a trap" line somewhere in there, I guess. But anyway, that's that part of the thing. The other issue I had, maybe we can use Legos. We're going to use that First Order again. Because in the very, very beginning of the movie, we've got the First Order, and Poe has this group that he, once again, does what he feels like and doesn't listen to his leader, Leia. They demoted him, but big deal. When you got only like 50 people, it doesn't really matter, I guess. Anyway, so they've got these bombers, right? And I feel like within 3 seconds, they take out all of them except one. And you've got this bomber that's Rose's sister's in. And even the people in it get like either killed or knocked out. And Rose's sister herself gets knocked out of like her seat or something and gets knocked away from the button that's going to trigger the bombs. Those other bombers just got taken out like that. And they were manned. This one is unmanned, and it just kind of glides through the fleet or towards the fleet, and everybody's freaking out. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, we got to blow up that bomber. And they're like, that bomber, it's got to get through. It was the most long, drawn-out thing where this thing that's basically unprotected makes it through. Rose's sister's able to agonizingly, slowly go through a process to open the doors and let the bombs drop, and it works. But it's like, come on, they could have still pulled this off and made it a better scene. Don't have all these ships get wiped out instantly. Maybe there's a gradual process. Have some of these people they're like defending the ship so it makes it through longer. Instead, it just was like, well, if it was so easy to take all them out, how did this thing get through? I just feel like whoever was behind that aspect of the movie didn't know how to make a good space battle. I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm running out of time. Tell me what you think. See ya.